What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt Taville with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Bob Arum. Bob Arum states that Errol Spence is too slow and Terence Crawford annihilates him. Wow. Okay, Bob says he proposes that Spence and Crawford fight on a 40-40 purse split with a 20% of the loot going to the winner of the clash. He stated, that deal would work if Crawford was on the same level as Spence in terms of being a pay-per-view fighter, ticket seller, and if he had as many titles. Spence is on the precipice of winning his third title at 147 after he faces WBA champion Yordenis Ugas in July. When Spence gets his hands on Yordenis' WBA welterweight strap, that'll give him the IBF, the WBA, and the WBC belts. Arum says Spence is blocking the Crawford fight. He says, I really believe it's Spence that is putting up the roadblocks because he doesn't want to do the fight, said Arum to Barbershop Conversations about his belief that Errol Spence isn't interested in facing Crawford. Errol would have likely given Crawford a 50-50 split that he wanted if he'd fight him before he became a pay-per-view star and the IBF and WBC 147-pound champion. If Crawford were negotiating with Manny Pacquiao, he would likely need to agree to an 80-20 split if he wanted that fight, and he's not even a belt holder. Okay, but now that Spence has established himself as one of the most popular welterweights in North America, it's difficult to imagine him giving Crawford the split. He says Spence is too slow and he doesn't have fast feet. Excuse me. Terence, who can go from lefty to righty, is much more of a skilled fighter. Wow. Okay, well, let me counterpunch. Bob Arum is doing what he's supposed to do. And the irony of Bob is, he said he's tired of spending money on Terence Crawford, or losing money, rather, on Terence Crawford. And he expects Terence Crawford to promote himself more. But it still seems like Bob Arum saying something like this is still promoting Terence Crawford. Him saying that Errol Spence is too slow and Crawford annihilates him, I don't think that's the case. I think Terence Crawford beats Errol Spence just by being more skillful, but I don't think speed has a lot to do with it. Because Errol Spence is not that damn slow. Okay, he showed us that in the Danny Garcia fight, and he showed that he was a notch faster than Danny Garcia. And I know Danny Garcia is a looping puncher, he's a hooker and things of that nature, but he showed what the level of speed was about. He showed that there was levels to speed. Errol Spence was jumping in and out. He looked lean, he looked focused, he looked quick. Okay, so I don't know what Bob is talking about saying that Errol Spence is slower and he'll get annihilated by Crawford like we're dealing with Pacquiao versus Margarito or something. This isn't the case. Errol Spence, despite what I feel about him outside the ring, he's a hell of a fighter. If he wasn't a hell of a fighter, this wouldn't be a fight that everybody wanted to see. Okay, counterpunch. So no, Bob is just saying this because Bob is trying to promote the fight. However, let's look at it this way. If Mean Machine could get to Terence Crawford early in that fight, why couldn't Errol Spence? And look at Mean Machine's not a fast, quick fighter. And in fact, I think Errol Spence is faster than Mean Machine. You see what I'm saying? So no, I don't believe that at all. You can miss me with that. But I will say this about Bob. The 40-40 split with the 20% going to the winner, that looks like that would work more than any other fighter. Now, what he's talking about, pay-per-view star and having the belts, yeah, it is a good plan on Spence's end to get all those belts so he has more bargaining power. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and especially if he beats someone like Yordenis Ugas. Think about it. You beat Ugas, you beat Danny Garcia, and you beat Sean Porter to a close fight. You still won all three, and those are top welterweights. So, yeah, at that point, you should look at it like, okay, he has bargaining power because he has three straps, right? So the last one is the WBO. So that makes Terence Crawford In the welterweight division, someone or somewhat like Deontay Wilder was when he was dealing with Anthony Joshua or whatever, right? With that whole ball of confusion going on with that. So he was he was more like him. However, in the welterweight division, and I have to reiterate, Terence Crawford, this ain't his only weight class. That's what people forget. People forget that he's been a champion in 2 other weight divisions. You know what I mean? Cleaned out 140, got the Ring Magazine belt. So he's a Ring Magazine holder. You know what I mean? Those belts they don't give them out to everyone. Okay. You have to be somebody special to get one of those belts. Okay. So when we're dealing with Terence Crawford is the guy that's been other places. The only downside to Terence Crawford is he's not a guy that you love to hate. He's not a brash and flamboyant, flashy guy like Adrian Broner. He's nothing like that. He's a calm, quiet killer. Okay, that's exactly what he is. And because he's that way, yeah, he'll get you out of there. He's never been defeated, but like, hey, he doesn't really sell tickets like that. And for the record, Errol Spence, the only reason he got the nod for pay-per-view is because of who he was fighting. He was fighting Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia has a whole country behind him. He has a following. Those followers will promote him. Okay? They will support him. That's the difference. And since they're supporting Mikey Garcia, he knew, as well as Al Heyman, he knew to fight someone like Mikey Garcia because Mikey Garcia had the clout. Okay, so you can't just look at Errol Spence and saying, oh, well, he's a top seller. You know what I'm saying? And as far as Danny Garcia goes, okay, that doesn't mean he arrived. It was a good fight. It was a good following. I supported it. I watched it. We went live on that. But Errol Spence, they were in a limited crowd. Okay, they were in a limited crowd, and the people that came had to pay top dollar for those damn tickets. Okay, so they knew, and then the networks knew, like, hey, it's a limited gate, so we have to jack up the prices of the tickets. That only makes sense because it's a limited crowd. Okay, but it is significant that it did well. Now, I don't really know the numbers in front of me, but it did really well. But Danny Garcia, again, is no slouch, right? And I think people were just anxious to get back out in the public and actually start living again. You know what I mean? But no, back to what Bob's saying, to reiterating that Errol Spence is too slow. Please, he is not too slow. That's one hell of a fight if it happens. And it won't be somebody like, if Terence Crawford annihilates Errol Spence, I would be absolutely impressed. And there ain't nothing that nobody else can do to knock him, Terence Crawford, off the #1 pound for pound list. He would be the best in the world at that point. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Bob Arum stating that Errol Spence is too slow and Terence Crawford annihilates him. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.